All right, we are recording. Hello, I'm Jessica Waite, the president of Very Good Food. Our podcast, Growing a Food Movement, is a forum for discussion about building a more resilient local food system. The COVID pandemic has emphasized the need for this resilience and has challenged many of us with the opportunity to create new systems and strategies. We have also seen an outpouring of support for our local businesses and our local heroes. This podcast Zoom series, The Bright Side, will highlight stories of growth and innovation as we discuss how to use these lessons to create momentum towards a healthier future. And today I am honored and excited to have Eileen with me. Hello, welcome.
Hi, Jessica. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. So Eileen I was just getting the list of all of the things that you do, and from wineries to owning restaurants to a food truck to a hotel, and then also the organic body care line that just sounds so amazing. You said it was made with lavender, and I was just like, oh, you're beautiful. And it's so beautiful down in your too, how much wild lavender there seems to grow. At least when I'm down there, I notice a lot of lavender. That's beautiful. So I'd love to ask you to just start out telling us a little bit about your background and how you got into all of these amazing endeavors.
Sure, I'd love to. As you can probably see, if this is this video? I'm not sure.
Oh. We'll do video, yeah.
Okay. So as you can probably see, I've reached a fairly ripe old age, so I have a long career behind me that's metamorphosized and various things. I actually started in the entertainment business 30 years ago, or more now, probably closer to 40 years ago. But I've always been very interested, before most people even knew about it, think about organic, healthy, kind of spiritual. And one of the last things I did whilst in the entertainment industry was to form a channel, which was a kind of we called it a conscious living channel. And the idea was that it was 24-hour programming. It was called Innergy. It was a pan-European channel in 17 different countries. And it was all about basically being a better person in a number of different ways. So the programming was very diverse. We did a program called Fork to Fork, which was about organic gardening, and then for half of the program, and the other half of the program was about recipes. So it was kind of a play on the pitchfork and the fork to eat with. We did yoga programming, and I'm talking about 1980 something, when all of these things were not mainstream at all. You know, people thought that we were kind of out of our minds, and to a certain extent they were right. We were, but not when it came to being better and more caring and aware of the impact that what we do has, not only on our own lives personally, but on the lives of our family, our community, our country, and the world at large. So that's kind of the background leading up to how we decided to start a hotel. That was mainly in England and Amsterdam, and in Los Angeles as well. I had a production company. But then when 9/11 happened, I really decided that I didn't want to do the copious amount of traveling that I had been doing for many, many years. I always joked that American Airlines should give me a first look deal, but I should have not only be able to use all of the lounges, but have my own private deal with them, where I had my own private space there. I traveled so much. But then came 9/11, and I really didn't feel as though I wanted to carry on being all over the world. And it wasn't that I was scared that I was going to die in a plane crash. What I was really worried about was that we're going to close all of the borders. And this is kind of pertinent to what's happening now.
Yeah, absolutely.
All of the borders, and I would be stuck in wherever it was in the world that I happened to be. And my husband would be in Los Angeles, which is where we had our main residence, and I'd never be able to get back to him. So I gave up my partnership in the channel in Innergy, which was a co-production, I suppose, between myself and Morgan Mason, who's James Mason's son, and Deepak Chopra and Dave Stewart. of the Eurythmics. And I just bowed out of that and then moved our production offices that were in London to LA, and sold our apartment in London as well. And for the first time in my life, I actually had some money. And I said to Phil, you know, I'm not really keen on spending all of my time living in London, but wouldn't it be great if we could find a place to be the sort of nuts and bolts, and I didn't mean that's, I mean brick and mortar of
Yeah.
what it was that we were doing on the channel, to have a real space for it, which was actually something that we've been looking at. We were looking at old chateaus in France to do all of our broadcasting from. And I said, well, you know, I'd really love to do something kind of like that. And so we looked, and Phil wanted to make wine. And so we looked for a place, and somebody told us about the Guadalupe Valley. And we came down here, and it was love at first sight. And we bought a property in 2002. And in 2005, we opened. So we're actually celebrating 15 years. And it's a small boutique hotel called La Villa del Valle. And the group is Grupo La Villa del Valle. Yeah, when we first arrived here, there was really nothing. It was a real quiet backwater. And so anything that we wanted, we would have to do ourselves. So the first thing we do is to put in a vegetable garden. We planted olive trees, we planted lavender, because I've always loved lavender and I wanted to make these lavender products. We did, got our own chickens, got our own ducks. We had, and continue to have, you know, we made sausages, we made olive oil, we had bees, we had our own honey. And we did that in the beginning because really I had to do that if I wanted to live the life that I wanted. But it soon became apparent that if we were to do it in earnest and to start a feasible business that would attract either like-minded or people that we could turn into like-minded people to come and be guests in our hotel and see that what we were doing in terms of sustainability and organic small footprint on the earth was actually something that wasn't just some proposition that sounded really nice, but something that was the way that we were living our lives on a day-to-day basis. And look, you come and see, and you can do something similar. So that was part of what our mission was. And the other part was to create a market so that the local people would be incentivized to do organic vegetable gardens, which are myriad now, to make quality organic products. So, you know, people are making marmalades, tomato sauces, they're making sausages. So there's a wealth of things going on to support what has now become, you know, fast forward, well, it's 15 years ago that we started, but fast forward probably 7 years from when we started, that we became very well known. When I say we, I'm talking about the Guadalupe Valley, as not only a stellar winemaking region, but additionally as a really well-known gastronomic place. And the gastronomy is based largely on local produce, on organic, on sustainability, on all of the things that are really important to us. So that, of course, in terms of creating markets for small cottage industries, has been a great boon. So I've forgotten what the question was, but I think I may have answered.
That was all, I mean, that was incredible. And it's just paints such a beautiful picture of, I didn't realize how long you'd been down there. I had never really thought to ask. And I think my first encounter with that region was coming to your hotel, and it was Michelle's birthday a couple of years ago. And I had never been down there before. And just I mean, for people who love this movement towards a localized food system, it was such a beautiful example of what can be possible. And I mean, your turkeys, sorry, I love your turkeys, and the garden and the restaurant right there overlooking the garden and the produce coming from the garden. It was, you know, it was almost like heaven, like, or Mecca or something so concept validating that we could see like this is possible. So you've done beautiful work down there, and I'm so impressed by all of it and your passion and spirit for it. I love that you said that you were able to kind of take what you were broadcasting through the Energy channel and actually demonstrate it, you know, and because I think it's easy for us to all wax philosophical about how we should live, but to actually get in there and do it and show that it's possible is incredible. So, I mean, I think the last time I was down there was for a dinner, probably in fall. And as far as I could see, everything was still just booming. And there was, as far as business and really the evolution of what was going on in that area. Come, January and February, we started to kind of get this news about this virus that was causing shutdowns and halting immigration, and things started to change. When was the first time the pandemic started to kind of come onto your radar as something you might have to be concerned about?
It seems as though it kind of happened overnight. Of course, we had heard about it, and I remember traveling and not really feeling in any way threatened personally, or that it would be something that would affect my community or anybody that I knew. I do remember probably in the very beginning of March, if somebody sneezed, we went to Scottsdale, Arizona on a family holiday. We were at the Heard Museum, which is the Indian museum there, which I really encourage people to go and see if they haven't been. Every year they have an Indian market, and there are thousands of people. And this was March 8th, and it never dawned on me to feel in any way as though I was compromising my chances of avoiding the virus. In fact, it never even dawned on me, although I did feel a little bit of trepidation. If somebody sneezed, I'd kind of hold my breath a little bit and walk away. And that was sort of the extent of it. And then I came back on March 10th. I came back home, and still everything seemed pretty normal. And then March 12th, it was actually the last time that I ever went outside. So when I say outside, left my property. So personally, I have to say that I couldn't be luckier to have wound up in my idea of paradise for a time that's not been paradise for many people at all, and really challenging for almost everybody, I would say. But we are now on day 101 of not having left the property. So that's kind of works for us, because we have 70 acres that we can walk around, and we have the whole hotel to ourselves, which we've never had before. and so personally, it's been, I think probably what's apart from the fact that we have been so lucky, I think what's really wonderful in the way my own personal way of looking at life has changed is that I just feel so grateful for all of the things that we do have. And I guess that there's somewhere not so far in the back of your mind that, this could all go to hell in a very big handbag very, very quickly. That it kind of focuses your mind on being really present in the present. And when I'm that, I'm just so grateful, first of all, to have lived such an amazing long life with up until 3 months ago, having avoided, as most of my generation has, if you're lucky to have been born and lived in America or Europe, the first generation not to have been in a real war. And not to say that the Vietnam Korean War isn't a real war. We grew up in the shadows of World War II. So for most of us, it was kind of a very privileged life that we kind of took for granted, and we don't do that anymore.
No, and I think that's one thing that we realize right now is that this happened, and it's not necessarily going to be the last time something like this happens. With increased globalization and just this idea that with a kind of changing climate, we might have more instability that leads to more of these kind of events. And so, the big question is, how do we prepare for that? And how do we become more resilient against that? And what you've created, it, in its own way, is resilience. You have food and you have wine. And not that that's crucial, but it's pretty darn necessary. And, but you've got
wine's
this
totally
space.
necessary.
Yeah, okay. You've got this space where you can be sufficient. And I think that's a really interesting thing to think about when we're going, okay, well, next time something like this happens where our borders are closed. But I know from talking to you previously, there have been a lot of challenges as far as what you've seen in the community where you are, your team members or your employees, what they've faced. Do you have any of the challenges that you can share with us to kind of maybe kind of clarify what it looked like down in that region to have a shutdown like this occur?
Sure. First of all, I'll start on the bright side,
Yeah,
which
absolutely
is
my favorite side.
as a kind of, I mean, not that I think that I'm the inciting incident, but because of what we've done and other like-minded people who came to live in the valley have done, it actually has made this area an easier place to live this kind of experience, because lots of people have got their own vegetable gardens, lots of people are making things. So we have not had any kind of a breakdown that I have noticed in the supply chain, because largely what we buy are things that are produced, made, or grown locally. And that wouldn't have happened when we first came here because there was nothing here. So that's one huge advantage. But us personally, what we have done is, so in Mexico, unlike other countries in the world, and I'm not just talking about the developed world, but even in South America, there have been lots of programs to help people who have been put out of work, and companies to try and help them to maintain the jobs by being able to give them some kind of either funding or loans or grants so that they can help to pay wages to keep the employees employed. Well, that has not happened in Mexico at all. So there's no safety net either for any of the businesses nor for any of the employees. So Mexico traditionally has been a largely poor country where people work very hand to mouth. You don't see a lot of people saving money because, first of all, they don't make that much money. And in a region where we are, for instance, where we're so close to America, things are actually very expensive here. And if you're on the kind of normal salaries that people make, you can live, but you're not going to be saving money to be able to buy a house. And also people are very family oriented. So, a lot of the people that are working are young people that are that kind of sandwich generation. So they're looking after their parents and they're also looking after their children. And then through zero fault of their own, they get fired or laid off or furloughed. And these are people, well, certainly in our case, we have people that have worked for us for 15 years. And through no fault of their own, I'm talking about loyal, smart, hardworking employees who any other time in practically the whole history of us being here, any other time would have been, if I fired them or as they left, they would have been in another job in a nanosecond, because we have a kind of a reputation for excellence among the people who have businesses here, because we have great staff who then take it in turn to train the new staff. So it's sad to think that these people are now going, because it's been now nearly 4 months that we've been closed, and we did pay everybody for 3.5 months, but we're now in a situation where we're actually having to fire people, and nobody's going to get unemployment because it doesn't exist here. So one of the things that we did was to think, well, this is going to be something that's going to be of large, gargantuan proportions here specifically, because we are not just an agricultural region, which agricultural workers are kind of okay. They actually have always been allowed to work through the whole pandemic. But most of the industry here is tourist related. Well, of course, that's just gone. So, they're not going to get jobs until the situation changes and gets better. So we figured that this was going to happen sometime down the road. So what we did was actually pulled up all of my lavender plants, and we planted vegetables, and actually we did, we bought a couple of sheep too. So we've added to our menagerie, and those were supposed to be to breed from, and if they didn't breed, then to just give out to people who work for us who needed it, or to people in the local community. But I don't think that's going to happen because
Yeah.
they now have names. They're like pets. We take them for I mean,
Oh no.
but what we have been doing as a community, and this has been always one of the things that I've always loved about living here, is that there is such a strong sense of community. And I've often tried to figure out why that was. And I think a big part of it is that we are basically on our own. You know, we've never had any support from the government whatsoever.
Yeah.
So, you know, if we have fires, then we have a volunteer fire department, and everybody that lives here and works here sends everybody and goes to help the firemen who are literally putting out fires with palm fronds. And there are, you know, courses that we've instigated. We form a kind of a volunteer brigade. So, you know, the long and the short of it is that if you want anything done here, you know, you have to do it yourself if you can, or rely on your neighbors to do it as a community. And so that's always worked really well and continues now. And some of the things that we have done and continue to do are, they're called dispensers. And I guess the closest thing that I can think of would be care packages. So Provino, which is the winemakers association here, has a social arm, and I'm on the committee of that. And we actually do a lot of things with the Very Good Food as well. So we are doing care packages, and every week we identify 60 families to give these care packages to. And they're usually very basic things, but then we try and augment it with, you know, I'll have my guys here bake something for them, just something so that it's not rice and beans and tortillas, but, you know, something just to add a little sweetness to life. So those things go to families in need, but also to the volunteer firemen, to the medical workers, to the police department. So, you know, and it's kind of something that we started, that I took a leaf out of Very Good Foods agenda, which is something that you guys have been doing such a great job doing. And I thought, hey, we can do that. And then I just, I guess because I'm like an eminence grise these days and have a bit of clout for being one of the founding members of Provino, I just say, okay, we're going to do this. And every week one winery is going to donate however much for 65 of the care packages. So that's one thing that we're doing. And another thing that we're doing under the auspices of Very Good Food is, as Jessica, you know, we had a, because Very Good Food is, it's a local, it's all about local, and we consider ourselves very much to be part of the greater San Diego conurbation, so to speak, that, you know, our wine region about being San Diego's closest wine region. And we, you know, the border where we are is basically just a kind of some construct line in the sand. But, you know, we share so much culture and so many different ways of relating to each other that we always think of this as kind of Cali Baja as opposed to being Mexico or America. It's a kind of a border region unto itself. So one of the things that Very Good Food has been doing, we did a fundraiser here and raised a considerable amount of money. And it was a sort of extension of the school garden programs in the San Diego area. And this was for school gardens here in Mexico, which we did start. And to great success, we had one school garden that up and running that had a great harvest this year. We were starting the second one when, of course, all of the schools had to close because of the virus. And luckily we did have the harvest, and the kids sold all of the vegetables and used those vegetables sales to actually pay for a guard to guard the school, because they have computers there and things that are worth, you know, quite a bit of money. And of course, with people having not a lot of money, the crime is getting more prevalent, you know, mainly petty crime, but to be expected. I'm sure it's happening everywhere. So then I thought, well, wait a minute. I still have this fund that was for the schools. So we were hoping to do 8 schools. And I thought, well, one of the places that we were giving the care packages to were orphanages. And I thought, well, you could actually extend the idea of what a school is to include orphanages, because these are now de facto schools as well as orphanages. So we approached 2 directors of 2 orphanages here who by and large had been very well looked after by people who live in the San Diego region, largely churches who had donated consistently food, supplies, and of course that was cut off when the border was closed. So they were kind of in dire need of equipment and food, basically. So we've started that program as well. And we're going to do another one. And that, when I say we, that is kind of a joint venture between Very Good Food and Provino. And Provino are now doing what's in planning stages, a project that's kind of an extension of the school gardens, which would be a community garden. And Santo Tomas, which is a very large and the oldest winery here, it's been around for 150 some years, have volunteered to donate some land that could be a kind of a community center. And the idea of working together is that because Very Good Food has so much expertise, that we would be sharing our, if I say Rolodex, our network of experts in various different fields with this initiative down in Santo Tomas. And it would be larger than just vegetable gardens. It would be classes on how to make compost, how to raise chickens, and all of the things that people need to be self-sufficient and sustainable, because I think that's going to be the key word, both on a little local basis and in the world at large, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I just keep going back to this article I read in like 2016, of course, right after Trump was elected. And so many of us are like, oh God, what do we do? And how do we move forward when we do not trust or respect our, our leaders in the federal government? And there was an article, I think, written by Michael Bloomberg that just really emphasized the need to go local, go grassroots, and build, build out community in a way that it expands outward and creates impact and ripple effect through that expansion. And again, now with the resiliency that we're going to need moving forward, and a somewhat unstable or political or environmental climate, how do we do this? And what you're talking about is exactly how we do it. Like, it's so on the nose. Like, I mean, from the community gardens to the orphanages to even it made me sad hearing that the students sold the vegetables to buy a guard, but at least they were empowered to do that. And those vegetables gave them some currency to do that with. And I mean, that's beautiful.
And they understand about, first of all, they understand that it's something that they really did for themselves, and they learned a lot. It wasn't just the garden themselves, but we did programs where we taught the teachers and we taught the kids. And, if you could see those kids with their smiling faces, so proud of what they'd done. And it wasn't all in vain at all. Actually turned, at first I thought, same as you, God, this is really sad. But then when I thought about it, I thought, wow, that is, as you say, utterly empowering. This is something that they did that has a value, that can then protect the thing that gives them more value. So I have another thing to say, which is kind of
I want to hear it.
tangential, but somehow feeds into the whole picture. This was, we are in a very fire-prone area, and last year we had terrible fires around about October. And so as I was talking about the volunteer firemen and, the hoops that we had to jump through, because we had, there are no real fire trucks, there's nothing. So we as Provino again, and also with the help of Very Good Food, we had decided that we were going to do some initiatives to raise money for the firemen, to at least give them training and equipment and uniform, some things with protective clothing. And so we started very small, and in fact, the very first thing that we did was at the Very Good Food, it was called the Very Good Noche. It was a party that was the second year that we did it. I said to Michelle, who was the host, And I said to Michelle Durac, who's the founder of the Very Good Food Foundation at the time, and I said to her, would you mind if at the end of this we did an auction, and I'll get the wineries to contribute the wine, and then all the money that we raise can go towards helping the firemen. And I invited the captain of the fire department, and he brought another 2 guys, and of course my colleagues from Provino donated wines, very, old vintages or magnums, and we auctioned those up, and we made something like $8,000.
That's incredible.
And then we did 2 dinners at a wonderful restaurant in Mexico City called Bistro Maximo. And those guys opened on the day that they are closed. All of their staff donated their time. All of the purveyors and providers donated all of the materials and the food. And then they had every single penny that charged for the dinner went to the funding of this emergency fund for the firemen. They did that they did 2 different seatings, and of course the wineries donated the wines as well. And we raised a substantial amount of money. And then 2 days later, the husband and wife who have Bistro Maxima came to Corazon de Tierra and did another 3 different meals, 3 different turns. And all of that money went as well. Who else did something? Manzanilla did a big dinner, and then Tucuci, which is Enrique Olvera's kind of bar with food, a really cool place in the old Pujol. They did a Valentine's Day pairing with sparkling wines from the Valley, and that money went as well. And then you guys in San Diego did a huge event and raised a bucket full of money. And I'm very happy to say that 2 days ago, a brand new fire engine was delivered in El Porvenir. So
that is incredible. Oh my goodness, that is so incredible. And talk about community rising up and doing what needs to be done. That is incredible. Well, we have trying to keep these to around a half an hour just so that they're bite-sized and usable, but I could listen to you talk for like the next 3 hours. First of all, your voice is just so beautiful. But second of all, you have so much to say. But in the interest of kind of sticking to our format, is there anything that you would like to say to really kind of summarize or wrap this up? I mean, I know we've talked about the benefits of this local community and the resilience it creates, but is there anything else that you want to share about kind of your insights over this process?
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to thank everybody that's really come together, and it seems as though there's been so many bad things, but also such an outpouring of kindness and caring and a whole new way at looking at life. So whereas we're in pretty dire times, and I don't see that that's going to change as quickly as everyone would have hoped. I'm worried that it's actually going to get a lot worse before it gets better. But the hope that I see is in the resilience, which was the word that you used, which is exactly what's, bring it on, you think, what else? And then, I don't know if you know this, but there was a huge earthquake in Mexico today. 7 earthquake.
You just had fires and there's a pandemic.
And it's I guess it's almost like, bring it on. Okay,
that's kind of how I think about a lot of it. So, it's crazy.
It does seem biblical proportions, but it also seems as though humanity has kind of stepped up to the plate and understood that there are things that are out of our control and there are things that are within our control, and that acting as a community, you can certainly make a difference. And we've seen that with Black Lives Matter and the way that everybody's stepped up to the plate to support all of the medical workers, all of the people that are delivering things, people that work in morgues and funeral homes and cemeteries, people that really are the heroes here. And I know I'm saying what everybody says all the time, but for me, the big takeaway is that, if you're put in a situation where it seems almost life and death, that I think that the best of people come out. And all that I hope is that we don't forget this, and that the new normal is a lot better than the old normal for a lot more people.
I love that so much. I'm gonna cry a little right now, but it is so true. And we have so much ability and potential to move forward in a way that is just enlightened, from this experience. So thank you for that. Now I've got chills. But okay, well then I am definitely going to wrap this up. But if we want to learn more about all of the work that you're doing, our listeners already know about Very Good Food and our platform. But what about you? How can they learn more about about your organizations?
Okay, well, probably the best thing to do would be to contact me directly, and I'm going to say what my email address is, which is info as in information at lavilladelvalle.com, and that's LAVILLADELVALLE.com. And I don't know if
that's
incredibly
helpful.
Clear enough. I hope
I think it was. That was like the one very, very clear part of this entire, because there's definitely always like a little blurb here and there, but that came through loud and clear. And then what about, do you do social media? Is there a presence that they can follow, or websites?
That's in terms of what I do that I feel is work that I do to benefit the community. I like to be kind of quiet about that. In the past, I've never really wanted to say, because it's something very personal that I don't do for my own glorification. But I started thinking a couple of weeks ago that it's kind of important, not that people know what I do, but people, particularly for organizations like Very Good Food and for Pro Vino as well, because Pro Vino has a reputation here among the people who live in the pueblos here, that they all imagine that all of the winemakers are these very rich, arrogant, self-centered people that really only care about themselves. But very quietly, Pro Vino does a lot of work. And now one of my goals is to make sure that everybody knows what we do, because I think it's important so that there is a trust, because and an understanding that, we care, and, people care for a million different reasons. They care because they do care about people. They care because it's beneficial to their businesses, that the people that work for them are well looked after. It doesn't matter why. It's just that it's important that the people that have less understand that the people who up until very recently had more, because you couldn't say that we have more anymore. We've all been closed for 4 months with no support whatsoever, and we've been paying people. And again, I'm talking about a greater we. I don't mean myself. I'm talking about that almost every one of my colleagues here has done everything that they can to keep as many people on their payroll as they can. So, that's put us in a situation, because a lot of us, most of us actually, are small family businesses without very deep pockets. I wouldn't say that we live hand to mouth, but I also wouldn't say that we have big war chests either. So this came from nowhere and has really crushed us. So, hence the vegetable garden, because normally you'd just give money, but now people don't have the money to give. So, we took all of our old sheets and pillowcases, and we've been making masks out of those and giving them to anybody that needs them. We give them to the medical workers, to the police. We've been collecting white sage, the it's called magic sage, and making smudge sticks and giving those away. So and now Baja Botanica is now making, this is really funny, on a very small level. We did a film. My husband had made grappa that, to all intents and purposes, was undrinkable. He made it ages ago, and the alcohol content's like 90% strong. So we took that And we mix that with aloe. And then we put some of our essential oil in, and we've been giving little bottles to people to take around with them of their, like an antiseptic gel, basically.
Yeah.
So we're going to do more of that as well. And the other thing that Provino has done is the bigger wineries have donated a lot of wine, a lot. And they've turned that wine into alcohol to make hand sanitizers as well. So
That's
I
incredible.
don't know. Just, I suppose what I would say is when the time is right and when it feels safe for you and feels safe for us, although I have to say that as of last week, the Valley has opened up. They've given hotels and restaurants and wineries permission to open. Of course, following very strict protocols. And all of my staff right now are in a 5-hour training course with the Department of Health and Security here. So if you do come, please make sure that you go to places that are adhering to all of the protocols, because so far we haven't had a single case of the virus here in the Valley, and we very much like to keep it that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's it. Well, I hope to be able to come and visit you guys there, and I hope that you'll be able to come and visit us here sometime very soon.
We'll be down there as soon as we possibly can. We miss you.
We miss you guys too.
And we'll see you up here again, I'm sure. We'll get through this. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would just like to thank you for being a part of Very Good Food, for everything that you do. And then I'll go ahead and stop our recording now, but blessings. I don't say that to everyone at the end, but you're incredible. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And you are too, Jessica. She's brilliant.
Why, thanks. Okay, right. Let me see. Hold on. Let me stop the recording. There we go.